Hello, everyone, and welcome to Populate Social's International Women's Day session today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to this from. I'm Yoko. I work for Populate as their marketing executive. This is actually the first time we're kind of doing something like this recorded session. So please do bear with us. It's a concept that fills me with excitement, but also a bit of anticipation, but fingers crossed all runs smoothly. I'm obviously super excited today, and that's not just because it's International Women's Day, but because I'm actually interviewing a bunch of the UK's most strong, creative and inspirational females out there, one of whom I'll be introducing to you in just a sec. But on the whole, today we're just going to be covering a bunch of different things, starting off with the paths that these women have taken to becoming successful as women in business, obviously keeping it social-centered, whether social media has had any impact in the way us women can succeed, and the importance of topics and days like International Women's Day in inspiring that next generation of #girl bosses. And also we'll kind of be examining the wider sector's gender gap in a little bit more detail as we go. But further ado, let's get straight into it. I'm joined today by Katy Percy, who is an author, marathon runner, and all-round foodie wonder. Kate's story started actually with a running race and what she describes as a midlife crisis, after being inspired to kind of view her family's eating in a bit of a better way after noticing her husband struggling to train for the New York Marathon. Kate herself didn't kind of wait on the sidelines. She also decided to run a marathon herself, and the rest is pretty much history. Since she's kind of taken that approach, she's developed over 100 delicious natural recipes, which all are designed to boost energy and actually help athletes in both training and racing. It wasn't actually until 2015, following the success of her best-selling book, Go Faster Food, that Kate got the idea of turning her most popular recipes into a product, which is now known as Go Bites. Unlike most fitness foods on the market today, these energy bites are crammed with nothing more than simple natural ingredients, but they're designed specifically for athletes, as Kate presents there. Fast forward a decade, Kate has been named as Sunday Times Maserati top 100 game-changing entrepreneurs. She's also gone on to author and publish multiple best-selling active lifestyle books and nutrition guides. And not just this, she's also super passionate about inspiring young people to understand the link between eating well and mental and physical health, with 1p of every pack of the Go Bites being donated to the youth sport charity, which is obviously a really great incentive. So make sure before we go into the interview to check out their website and follow them on their socials at Katy Percy's, and kind of keep up with their journey and see how they got that amazing brand off the ground. But welcome, Katy, and thank you so much for being here today. We're super obviously excited to be talking about International Women's Day. So welcome to.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure.
Obviously, we kind of wanted to start looking at International Women's Day and kind of discussing that about the paths that women like yourself have kind of taken to get to where you are today. And I'm sure, obviously, I kind of went into it a little bit there, but I'm sure you would give a kind of better understanding of the story and how you got to where you are today and how Katy Percy and the whole Go Bites brands came to exist.
Thank you. Well, you were fairly accurate, really. Yeah, so way back when my kids were really little, my husband decided to run the New York Marathon, and he was really struggling for energy. So I just, as a cook, I just always bring everything back to, maybe we're not eating the right thing. So that got me into just researching how to keep your energy levels more stable, what sort of foods you should be eating. Yeah, then the rest is history. Basically, I changed our diet his energy level soared, my energy level soared. The kids were kind of just really good. They seemed to be better behaved than other kids, you know.
Yeah.
And that wasn't my mothering, I'm sure. So people just said, well, why don't you put all these recipes down into a book? And that's where Go Faster Food started. And yeah, I suppose at the heart of everything that we do is now encapsulated in my lovely new word, which is called Enerjoy. So at the heart of everything we do, we're trying to help people discover their Enerjoy for life. So that's really, really fantastic energy levels, great tasting food, vitality, happiness. And that's, you know, everything we do, whether it's my recipe books, the food products, all the educational resources, they're all about discovering that really great energy that's going to give you the best chance in life, really.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, no, sorry. In general, like starting, obviously you were saying that it's kind of something that perhaps started a bit later on in your life, rather than something that was kind of a headstrong idea from the beginning. Obviously that's kind of not a specific kind of usual path for females to take, especially with the kind of lifestyles and expectations that we have. What differences do you think that it has made on you in your journey?
I suppose in a way you've got the wisdom of age to fall back on. As a woman, the one really good thing about starting later in life is that you haven't got all those sort of childcare demands on you, so you're kind of freer to really focus on your real purpose, on your mission. So that, you know, that has been, although, you know, as the kids grow up, there's still demands, but it's just a little bit different. You know, you're not kind of ferrying them all around everywhere. They can, you know, walk to places and make their own way, get on their bikes. So I think that's a real advantage. The other thing is that you know, I was lucky enough to have some funds as well, some personal funds to kind of get it off from go. Yeah.
Do you think it was a kind of conscious decision that you made, or more something like, this is my lifestyle at the moment and I just had this idea and it's kind of going to roll with that at the moment, rather than specifically thinking this is a good kind of time?
To start with, it definitely wasn't a conscious decision. It was just like, yeah, I've got all these great ideas. I've got these great recipes. I thought, well, let's see if I can find a publisher, and luckily I got Penguin Random House, which was a great place to start. So that kind of developed. I suppose I started with the adult book, and then a lot of people were asking me, you know, on the rugby sidelines, Kate, what should I feed my kids? So I thought, well, you know, let's do a kids book as well, or kind of more of a family book. Which was not so focused on, you know, how to win a marathon, you know, by eating the right sort of food. It was more on, you know, how to give great energy for your kids, to help their concentration, to help them have the right type of energy, what to give them after school, you know, between school and swimming training, or, you know, drama, whatever you do. So that's when the whole kind of passion to help children really understand how food works and get them inspired to, you know, get in the kitchen and cook themselves. That's when that started. And then I just got really fed up with you know, going into shops and looking for snacks and finding there was nothing that was actually truly healthy. You know, so many foods will say, oh, you know, you've got added vitamin C or added whatever, and then you look at their ingredients and you actually don't recognize half of them. So that's where the passion to actually turn one of my recipes into a product came, just to make you know, today it's World Obesity Day, and it's they were talking about creating some sort of reward system, like, you know, Sainsbury's nectar points type thing, to help people lose weight. And you know, it's such a much bigger thing than that. And I do think that the food industry can do lots of things to actually make the whole environment a better environment for us to eat in.
100%. Do you think
these little babies came
good product placement? Yeah. Do you think that it's, you feel like the route that you've taken would be off-putting to women, or kind of reluctant to want to dive into creating their own business and setting this up? What would be your kind of opinion towards that, and how would you maybe encourage women to see past that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of women, including me, I had a bit of a dose of it this morning, actually. I think a lot of us suffer from imposter syndrome. You know, can I really do this? We compare ourselves to others the whole time. You go onto Instagram and you think, oh my God, you know, what she's doing, it's just amazing. I could never do that. So I think, you know, we always feel that, and you've just got to switch that bit of your brain off, and believe in yourself. And I think a really good way of doing that is to surround yourself by other believers, people who will really help you, people who inspire you, and listen to all their advice, listen to what they say, but just go with your gut. Be confident enough to go with what you feel, what your passion is, and make it happen.
100%. Do you think that the motivations that you had in that first instance are still what keeps you going today and inspires you today, that kind of drive for that kind of, helping children, and, you know, just getting people to consider what they're eating a bit more and what's going into their ingredients? Is that still the kind of ethos of your brand and what carries you forward every day, or has that changed since it's developed?
I think it has changed in that it's just grown stronger. So I think, you know, if you don't have that purpose behind whatever you're doing in business, there's no business, really. You know, it's no point in doing it. And I think with us, it just grows stronger every day. You know, you just really want it to happen. You really want to make a change. So and I suppose as well as you grow as a business, you can see that you actually can make a change, you know, that things can happen, you can have an effect. So, you know,
that's
definitely a passion that is still there.
That's great. What would you kind of advise people who were wanting to, you know, this doesn't have to be women specifically, this is kind of anyone thinking of starting their own business? What are the kind of rules of the trade? What would you say?
Well, as I say before, you know, listen to advice, get people around you, sort of almost like create a team. It doesn't have to be a team that's employed, just create a little team around you of people who can help you. So for instance, with especially people who can help you on things that you're not confident at. I am not confident at all with money, Excel spreadsheets, cash flow, all that stuff. So I knew right from the beginning that I needed help with that. So, you know, just bring in help and get people, and people will help you. You don't have to pay them, you know, vast hourly rates or anything. People will help you, that especially if they believe in your brand, so that, you know, they can see where the future is. They'll want to grow with you. I think that's really important.
Do you think your gender defines you as a woman in business at all? Do you feel it sets you back, or is a positive thing?
Um, I think it's both. I think sometimes it does set you back, yet sometimes it can really work to your advantage. So yeah, and I think as well, because of my age, so I first started, my first job straight after university was in 1989. No, sorry, 1987. And I worked for a big blue chip company, sort of international marketing. It was my first job, really exciting. And I encountered the most awful sexism. I mean, it was just so, it's just something that just could not go on now. People just wouldn't dare, so I think things have really, really changed. And I actually think that was probably quite good for me. Made me, resilient, made me sort of realize, well, I've got to just be who I am and just go for it. And I think that's a good piece of advice for women, is just trusting yourself, lead by example, be a good role model, and will slot into place. Yeah, it's not just in business, it's just in life. I think, so if you have children, for instance, if you're a good role model, things will slot into place, and they'll kind of copy what you do.
100%.
Getting WhatsApps from my kids now saying that they're on these amazing runs wherever they are. They're all left home now, so
inspired. No, I think it's really great. I think there's definitely been a kind of there's a lot more like people like yourself, these women that are out there and inspiring other people and kind of getting these conversations started. Obviously, I think, like you're saying, there's been progression. There's also been there's still areas that definitely need improving. For example, kind of a statistic that came out recently was that only 8 female bosses were appointed last year by major retailers. Kind of a statistic that I think took us all a little bit by shock. And I think the whole world really stands to benefit from women taking the leading role in these companies. And there's still a lot of work to be done, but the kind of successes that you've reached in the industry and given the sector's gender gap, how would you say that you can reach those? Is it possible to reach those things? As I'm a young woman myself. Can I look at people like you and think it is achievable?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's kind of more set up to be achievable now as well. I mean, women will always have to make compromises, make choices, especially if you go down the having children route. And that, I think that you just have to accept that as part of life, and you don't have to do it all in your 20s, in your 30s. You have got, I'm intending to be 70 and still there growing Katy Percy's. So there is plenty of time. So I think I mean, for instance, there's this I can't think of her name, the head of John Lewis, the new head of John Lewis.
She's actually a Cardiff woman, apparently.
Is she?
My mum was saying, so that's a good thing. But yes, I know who you're referring to.
I think more people like that in the forefront of industry will really help things. And we do need more. But yeah, you can do what you want. You can do it. Don't get upset if it doesn't all happen immediately.
No, of course.
Take your time.
Very good advice. Obviously, we're a social media agency, so we like to kind of brush upon social media when we can. You've obviously, and other women, I think, have found social media in particular to be a really great platform to communicate and connect with your audiences and kind of build a real personality and understanding of who you are. Obviously, you've done this, but how would you say that social media has kind of played a part in your brand, and also maybe any tips that you have or anything that you do to run the socials that you could share with people?
Yeah, I think that is going back to the previous question about my age. That has actually been a real struggle for me. So it's really nice to hear that you think the social media is good. No, it's been a real struggle for me. And I think to start with, I just thought, I don't really understand this. So let's get in the experts. So we kind of went through a few years of getting different social media agencies to run our social media, and it didn't really feel right.
Right. Okay.
And I think that's because it's a personal brand, and I think because your social media is absolutely the first thing that people see, especially in lockdown. It's got to come for our brand. It's got to come from me. So I'm doing all the social media, all the posts, and that is really, really time consuming.
Of course.
I mean, it's really fun, but it's really time consuming. But I think the kind of the back end of it all, we could do a lot of work on there. We still haven't quite sussed out all that. But I think you have to just make sure that it's absolutely true to your brand. Really understand your style, your tone of voice, and stick to that. And that's actually quite difficult to do.
No, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I think, well, it's hence why we have a lot of clients walk through our doors, because, it's a struggle to get right. But I think what you do really well is that kind of, it feels really raw, it feels really real. It doesn't feel, fake. And I think in this day and age, that's what consumers want. They want real brands that feel, like they are made by someone down the road kind of thing. They don't want these huge glossy kind of over the top things. But definitely.
But they also want to see nice pictures, the kind of you can't, it's a kind of fine line between the
100%.
two.
Yeah, double-edged swords almost.
Exactly.
Obviously you're saying that you kind of handle the socials, and obviously you handle a lot of the stuff behind the business and the kind of the clogs behind that. Obviously e-commerce and the kind of growth in that, I think, has definitely made it more viable for women, especially later on in life, to be able to kind of set these stores up on Etsy or Shopify or anything like that, which is great. And we've seen some really, really good incentives off the back of that, and some really beautiful brands being made. But again, a kind of another shocking statistic to kind of throw in there is that only 8% of e-commerce companies are run by women. So do you think that this growth in the e-commerce sector has made it more viable for us to succeed, or are these kind of successes anomalies to the rule?
I think it's made us more viable to succeed. And I think it's just something that we'll see gradually growing and growing. Hopefully that 8% is, will be 20% next year, and 40% in a couple of years after that. I think it will just grow exponentially. I can't see why it shouldn't.
No.
There's no reason why it shouldn't.
No.
I think the only thing is that people do start maybe a little business on the side of their work, and although it's their passion, it's very difficult to run the two at the same time.
Yeah.
I tried that to start with a full-time job and Go Faster Food, and actually you have to make the decision at some point, which you're going to do, and that is a really, really, really hard decision to make.
I can imagine.
There's usually financially, there's usually the decision is because of finances. So you've got to have a friendly bank.
100%. I think that's the case with a lot of things today, but no, it's really good to kind of see that those steps are being kind of made, and that these companies are growing and developing in the way that they should be. What do you think is still one of the hardest things we face as women today? That could be personally, that could be in business.
It's still the age-old problem of juggling everything, and feeling like we should do stuff. So all the household chores, the shopping, the cooking, the looking after the children, the homeschooling, for instance. A lot of women just want to take control of it, rather than feel that they ought to. So I just think we have to make compromises. We have to make compromises. For instance, you can't have the most fantastic family, the cleanest of houses, and the most successful business.
No.
One of those goes. And for me, it's the clean house. So,
I don't blame you on that one. I think I'm I'm the same. I'll blame it on my successes.
Yes, absolutely. So you have to make compromises, and I think that is something it's always been there. But I think there are ways we can improve on things, and I think it is happening, and that is going back to the being a role model, starting right at the beginning, just like with healthy eating. To really get kids some understanding about food, it's best to start as early as possible with the parent as soon as the child is born. And I think the same goes for the equality of sexes. So if you have a daughter, it's really important that you show them that they're really valued, that everything about them is really valued, and that they can do what they want to do. If you have a son, it's important that they absolutely understand that they that their sisters and the women around them are amazing people, who are just as good as them. So I think it's not just important to bring your daughters up in a certain way, it's really important to bring your sons up in that way as well, so that they really understand and value us women.
I totally agree. Obviously, kind of touching upon it here, but what do you think needs to be done to kind of encourage this push of female kind of future generations becoming girl bosses? What do you think needs to be done?
I think we can do a lot in schools, a lot more in schools, to encourage entrepreneurship as a basic thing, whether it's for women or men. Because I think, again, the earlier people can start thinking about it, then the better that is. I visited a school actually a couple of years ago, and they were doing an entrepreneurs, a sort of a week's project on entrepreneurship, and I gave them a talk, and we did a session in the kitchen and everything. It was really, really good.
Oh, wow.
And the lack of knowledge on what it actually meant, what you would need to do was clear. So I think that would be a really good place to start. And then there's inspiring people like Michelle Obama, for instance. She do you remember when she came to London and she went to all the sort of inner city London schools, really focusing on minority girls,
Mm.
you know, just kind of encouraging them to, you know, follow their dreams and actually, you know, build that confidence. I think we girls go through confidence crises all the time.
Mm.
And that starts, I think it starts when we are, you know, when we reach puberty, we start, you know, lacking in confidence for all sorts of reasons. And so I think a really big focus there on getting girls to want to do things. You know, do you remember you start skipping sport because you feel you look funny in your sports kit? You know, all those things, they all contribute to that sort of inner confidence that I think you really do need if you're going to build a business.
100%. You mentioned Michelle Obama, but which woman would you say has influenced you the most? Well, I mean, it could be Michelle, but
well, no, I do follow her and I do admire her and I listen to her podcasts, and I think what she says is just brilliant. I really want to be her friend. Michelle, if you're there, give me a ring. Well, actually, my mother, my grandmother, I think they're probably my biggest influences. My grandmother had her own business as a seamstress. In fact,
wow.
She made clothes, and my mother worked full time as a deputy head in a big tertiary college. So I kind of just accepted that was how life worked. So I think you know, there were big influences and real, you know, really encouraged me to move forward.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And just one final question for you. What does being a woman mean to you?
What does being a woman mean to me? Oh, I think this is a hard one. For me, independence, I think. Independence. My husband, when I say independence, I do work with my husband. So my husband is a core part of Katy Percy's. He's our managing director, and he is like massive support. But being a woman is, for me, independence, creativity, having the chance to really make an impact on society, and yeah, I think that's it.
Perfect. That's a perfect answer.
Oh, good.
We throw that one in there, I think, more just to, I think it's just a good kind of closing one that anyone can answer, and it makes you think a little bit, doesn't it, about why is it? But thank you so much for kind of coming on today and talking to us. It's been like such a pleasure to hear your story, and obviously we're delighted to be supporting and celebrating International Women's Day today at Populate. But thank you so much.
Thank you very much.